Hey everybody, it's Chase here at Rocky Mountain. Thank you for joining me. I'm out here today at Mountain West MX. Shout out to Barn MX for having us. And I've got TJ Bronson from 891 Suspension. TJ, how are we?
I'm great. How are you, Chase?
I'm really good. I see TJ all the time. He's at all the local races that I go to. So we talk a lot. I pick his brain, and I like to come out here and just do some suspension tech videos. And today, you could kind of call it almost like a Shock 101.
Let's dive into it. To me, it's the workhorse of the bike.
And when you and I were talking, we said, yeah, everybody always says, yeah, I adjust my fork compression and rebound all the time, but not a lot of people mess with the shock that much. Maybe it's because there's 3 adjustments. There's a low and a high speed compression. Then you have rebound and they don't know what does what. So our goal today is just to help you, give you a couple scenarios of different instances and when you might want to adjust one over the other, and also just help you understand what each one is responsible for. So with that being said, TJ, let's paint a scenario, right? Well, first of all, low and high speed, that's probably the most commonly asked question. And you said that you actually use high speed more than low speed adjustment most often.
Yeah, it's probably one of my biggest adjustments that we can make on a shock. It gives you kind of the biggest bang for your buck. A little bit of adjustment does a lot.
Okay. Yeah, high speed adjusters are typically in, you can do an 1/8 of a turn, a quarter turn, a half turn's a big adjustment on a high speed adjuster.
Yeah.
And so a lot of people though, they get confused thinking that a high speed adjustment is how fast you're going on the track. That's not the case. It's actually the speed at which the shock is traveling through its stroke.
Correct.
And then low speed, we were talking about this, low speed is more responsible, you said, for kind of the supple initial part of the shock stroke.
Yeah, a lot more, again, like you said, the movement of the shock shaft. How fast is that shock shaft actually moving? Is it the low speed velocities in which it moves? That's where your low speed adjustments are going to play a bigger role. The high speed, meaning how fast does that shock move in and out? That's your higher speed adjustments.
Okay, and now for rebound is how fast or how quickly your shock or your tire is returning back to the ground, and we'll get more into that as well.
Correct.
All right, well, let's paint a scenario. Here, we've got a sand track today. It's rough, it's beat up. I'm coming into a corner, and I'm coming in at a high speed. I'm on the brakes as I'm coming in, and I hit that initial bump. Well, first of all, let's rewind just 1 second here. I was asking you, and you said, hey, if somebody's gonna come to me and they're talking about their shock, I'm gonna try and narrow it down to be as specific as possible of where they're getting the feeling that they don't like.
Correct.
And you said, is it the first bump that you're hitting when you come into a corner? Is it the second or the third? Because depending on what bump and where they're feeling it, is gonna maybe change what you're going to adjust on the bike.
100%, yes, if you hit the first bump, we might look more at your compression. If it's later series of bumps, your 3rd, 4th, 5th, we might look more at rebound. How fast are we actually recovering? Like, yes, it took the first one, but how quick can we recover? Is why we would necessarily go back to that specific spot on the track.
Okay, so if I'm coming into a corner and I hit the first big bump and I feel like I'm getting a big kick, what's gonna be your first initial reaction there?
Probably go to the high speed. Is it every single time you come to that corner, or is it that first bump? No matter what, no matter the speed, no matter my braking conditions, I hit it and I get the big kick. Okay, to me, I interpret that as the shock's getting through the stroke too quick. So I want to delay that. I'm actually gonna make a fairly significant high speed adjustment. Usually at least a quarter of a turn. For that, I'd rather take a bigger swing at this than just nibble at a small, less than an 1/8 of a turn of adjustment on it to get you that initial holdup so that you can continue to charge the rest of the way through those.
And you can always back it out. If you go a little too much, you can then back it out from there.
Yes.
All right, so if you come into that corner, so you're saying high speed, and a lot of us would probably think, oh, that's gonna be my low speed adjuster. But it's like you said, high speed is usually the culprit more often than the low speed adjustment.
Yeah.
Now you said if they're coming in and it's a 2nd or 3rd bump, okay, now we're not past the compression issue, it's gone into rebound.
Yeah, and the reason being is because the wheel will pack. Each time the tire hits a bump, it's going to progressively push the tire deeper into the rear fender or the shock, collapsing more. So at that point, we look at the rebound. Is it, like you said, the 2nd bump? Okay. The 3rd bump gets worse, the 4th bump gets worse. Okay, we're not recovering. We have a sensation of what we call packing. The wheel is just packing into the fender and we're not getting it back down to the ground so that it has the travel or the suspension to rebound and control and hit the next one and follow the same suit.
Okay, so this is why you try to narrow it down as specific as possible in a corner or a specific part of the track of when you're getting that sensation you don't like, because it might be your high speed, it might be low speed, or it could be the rebound. All right, well, how about another scenario? A jump face. You're coming in high speed, you hit that jump face, the rider's getting kind of a weird kick left to right as they're leaving the jump. What would you say there?
Good chance that what's happening again with the bike is it's completely collapsing and there's not enough to return this bike back to hold up. Now, naturally on a jump face, you are going to more than likely bottom your suspension, but it comes to your bottoming resistance at this point.
Like how fast is it bottoming?
Yeah, so if you hit that first initial transition and the bike fully collapses and it dishes to the side, we're too soft. There's not enough holdup in the entire shock stroke because you just hit the bottom and the pressure's got to go somewhere. So it's going to continue that motion until it's stopped. We would look more again at your high speed adjustment because you don't have enough holdup in the shock. So what's Newton's law? A thing in motion wants to stay in motion until it's at rest. And so your shock completely collapses on itself at the jump face, has so much energy, it has nowhere to go. It's just going to keep going that same direction. So we would look at your high speed adjustment, hold you up higher in the stroke, delay that from happening. Okay. Yeah, so we would make a high speed adjustment, run it in, delay that from collapsing so that it can be a smoother transition through that, so that it doesn't just hit and slide out on you.
And now just on the flip side, if you feel like, if you go in because they think it's too soft and it's not getting better, you could try going softer because it might be that it's just too stiff and it's not allowing to use the whole stroke of the shock.
100%.
All right, last little thing then. We haven't talked a whole lot about low speed, and so in what scenario is a low speed adjustment going to be maybe the first thing that you're going to think about adjusting?
Well, like we mentioned at the top, it's the subtle initial parts of the stroke. I look at low speed adjustments like on your exit chop out of a corner. How is the bike tracking out of the rut across the acceleration chop as you go through that? Is it sharp? Is it stabby? How does it feel across that? Because your low speed adjustment can help soften that up while you leave your high speed alone so that you
stay up in the stroke.
Correct. That way you're not softening everything to try to absorb this. We can work more with the low speed because again, your shock's not moving at a high velocity
or all the way through the stroke.
Correct. So it's just these little supple spots there. Low speed adjustments, a bit more of a fine tune adjustment than as much as your high speed where we take bigger swings.
Awesome. All right, well, look, that's kind of your shock 101. You have your low speed, supple, coming out of corners, you're not using the whole stroke. High speed, I think a lot of people, including me till recently, the last few years, I use high speed more than I do anything because high speed can also affect the ride height.
Yeah.
It's not always just like, oh, I got to take out some sag. It's like if you want a little bit more hold up or the front end, feel like the bike's squatting, I go in on high speed a little bit. So make those adjustments, play around with it. You can always go back to where you started. Make sure you know where you're starting at, first of all. You said vast majority of people, when you say, well, how far out on high speed compression are you? And they're like, they just look at you with a blank stare. So know where you're at, look at your manual, have a starting point. No matter where you go, you can always go back. But hopefully this information, what we've given, will help you kind of understand what's going on a little bit more out on the track. And we'd love to hear your comments. What's a scenario where you did a little shock 101 on yourself and you figured out, hey, this really helped in this scenario? We'd love to hear that. But TJ, thanks again for coming out.
Thanks for having me.
This guy's a suspension guru. If you live in Utah locally, or even if you want to ship your stuff to him, this guy's the master of suspension. So hit him up if you have any questions, 891 Suspension. Subscribe to the RM Rides YouTube channel if you want to stay up to date on other cool videos just like this one. I'm Chase. We'll see you on the trails.